So let's start out with Anthony Dasher and then Chip Towers.
Hey, Coach, good to see you today. With Tennessee's brand of tempo and from the looks of it, they don't seem to substitute a lot on offense. What's going to be the challenge of substituting defensively like you want, and just from a conditioning standpoint, what kind of shape your guys are in defensively to handle that?
I like to think our guys are in great shape. We worked really hard for the past 3 to 4 weeks. We've taken periods and worked really hard, anticipating this coming, kind of like you do when you have triple options. So we work periods to practice that, to work on our substitution patterns so that we can sub our players. And that's something that we constantly do. We did in the off week. We've done a couple of periods each and every week to make sure that we're prepared for it. But like I said on Monday, there's nothing you can really do to prepare for that kind of pace of play. It's almost impossible to simulate in terms of your practice. So a lot of it is knowledge, understanding it, and we want our guys to be able to do that. We want our guys to be able to play fast and execute.
Kirby, Tuesdays around here have often been called Bloody Tuesdays. This late in the year, are they still Bloody Tuesdays? And kind of on that note, were you able to get anything out of Jamari today? Is he getting closer to getting back?
Yeah, Jamari is weight bearing now. He's able to do that and do his weight bearing stuff. He's not getting a lot of reps in practice, but he's played a lot of football. And he had a week, I forget what week it was, that he didn't practice during the week and kicked back in, I think on Thursday or Friday, and was able to play pretty well. Whatever that was after the Auburn week, I think he ended up missing some practices and was able to jump in and go. We're still hopeful that he'll be able to, but we probably won't know that until Thursday or Friday. And our Tuesday practices are always get after it Tuesdays, and the kids kind of embrace that.
Okay, next couple of questions, Dean Legge, and then to Mike Griffith.
The weather is going to be it's not going to rain. It doesn't look like, Kirby, thankfully, but you're looking at, I don't think about 30s, but low 40s. What are y'all doing? How do you create freezing cold temperatures in Athens when they're not there to begin with?
You don't
to get ready for the game. Yeah. Well, what's the challenge with not being able to deal with that?
Those are outside factors. I mean, we don't control outside factors. I mean, best football teams hunt, and you go hunting, you're not worried about the weather. I mean, you're worried about the weather, you're doing the wrong kind of hunting. So for us, we're looking at it as we want to play a game, and the outside factors are nothing but distractions, and they're for people that want to find excuses and find reasons that they can't play well or won't play well. They can look to the weather, but I've never seen a guy that's hungry to eat that's worried about the weather.
Had to get that quote down there, Kirby. Guys worried about the eat, that's worried about the weather. That's a good point. Run game. Last week, Missouri basically looked like they loaded up. I know you said they didn't play a different defense, but they certainly brought guys closer to the line. How stubborn do you have to be with the run game when teams do that, when they load the box and challenge you to try to go over the top?
I think you always find ways to run the ball, regardless of how many are in the box. I mean, we're going to take shots. Run game helps set up the shots. Run game is part of our identity, so you have to be able to do that. It's not always as productive as we might want it to be, and some of that is what we did, and some of that's what they did. And we don't control what they do; we control what we do, and we got to do a better job when they're doing the things they're doing. There's things that hurt it, and we got to complement the run game we had with other run games, so we can take advantage of their aggressiveness, and then as well as the pass game, obviously.
And just to follow up, do you guys run a lot of counters, or have you mostly just been kind of a power team? It looks like everything. I guess I'm just asking the question there.
Do we run counters?
Yeah.
Yeah, we run counters. I don't know what you mean by do we run counters, or are we mostly a power team? That confuses me, because gap scheme is the way I would look at it, and counter and power are both gap schemes. So we run counters. I think almost everybody in the SEC runs a form of counter. Some teams are more inside zone, more outside zone, but yes, we run counters. We ran a lot of counters. We ran counters last week. We ran counters against Florida. We run counters each week.
Next question from Seth Emerson and then to Mark Weiser.
Kirby, are there similarities setting up this season with what guys who had the option of turning pro but didn't, but came back, like Jamari, Jordan, Devontae? Are there similarities between the message that sent and the effect it's had, and maybe what happened after your first year with Sony, Nick, and all those? I know every team is different, every player is different, but are there still some similarities there?
Yeah, I think there's always some similarities. I think it's a great story, Cinderella story, feel-good story, but I'll be honest with you, most guys base that decision on where they're going to be drafted, right? It's a business decision more than it is a Cinderella decision. Once they decide that the business is right to come back and play better, then it becomes all about, run it back. Let's do this again. Let's play better. But if the business decision is to go, which was what Stokes had, right? Is what Tyson had, then that's the decision they have to make as football players. Aziz was the same way. So I think it's more about where they're graded, and really in the same case of all those guys you're talking about that came back that year, whatever it was, 2016, 2017, they most of them needed to come back. they made a good business decision to be able to come back. I think a lot of times you guys, or there's a perception that guys get they overshoot themselves in terms of what their draft status actually is, because you guys maybe go off of, I don't know, PFF, or maybe somebody that tells you something. I don't know. We go off what the general managers tell us, and what the general managers tell us most of the time, they're pretty accurate. I mean, I think there's nobody that we've missed on outside of one round, plus or minus. Like if we told Stokes he was a 2, he went 1. Never had one that was 2 rounds off. Even Miko, he was a little bit of a surprise to go 2, but most of the people had him late 2 or 3. I mean, so the information's accurate, to my point. So they base their decision on accurate information, and they go from there. But the two are similar in that we had a good group come back, like really good kids that wanted to win. A lot of them have Georgia ties, and those guys came back, and this group, has come back.
Kirby, with the success you guys have had blocking punts and I guess field goals, extra points, what kind of things can you pinpoint about? Are you guys being more aggressive? Are you spending more time in practice? What are some of the keys to that?
Strain. I mean, it's just strain. We don't believe in leaving any stone unturned. I think you and I have talked about it before on here, that field goal block is an extension of red zone defense, and Coach Lanning and Coach Scott do a great job of selling that to our defense, that it's red zone defense. It's another play on defense. So why take it off? We change up our looks to be sound on the fake, and we do different things each week, and try to give the tough picture we can give. And then punt is the same way. I mean, we want to be aggressive. We faced a lot more different punt formations than we ever have, and we've seen a lot more rugby. For whatever reason, we're not a great punt return team right now because we don't get many opportunities. Like we don't get chances. Everybody does something different, and it's made it difficult. So if you can't return them, you can try to block them.
All right, next question, Jake Rowe, and then we'll go to Jack Duffy.
Hey, Kirby, I wanted to ask you, I know you kind of updated us on George yesterday, said you didn't know anything quite yet as far as when he would be cleared, but what is the process going to be like when he does get cleared? How much has he been able to do for you guys in terms of practice, and how ready would he be if he got cleared tomorrow?
It'd be just like those other guys, Yarnell, Taki, JT coming off his injury, Dom coming off his injury. There's a process that has to happen. You don't come back from an injury and then just jump in and jump back right where you were. It's hard because you have to get all the reps, the volume of reps, the work. There's only so many reps to give on actual execution. So Dom's been down on the scout team this week, getting a great picture. George has done a little more work this week than he has in the past. We've had George at practice, catching routes on air, the things that y'all seen, but that's really been it. He's done more competitive periods in terms of scouts and looking and getting confidence and able to go over and go against some DBs and things. But he's not taking reps with the offense, not with the 1-2 offense, because we don't know when he's going to be ready, and those reps are too valuable. We can't give them to him and not have another player that's going to play in the game. But when he's cleared to play in the game, he'll be able to start getting some of those reps. I don't know a timeline on that. I wish I did.
Hey, Kirby. Stetson Bennett was just named a semifinalist for the Davey O'Brien Award today, which is just another crazy accomplishment for an incredible journey for him. Can you talk about the growth you've seen in him as a person and player, bringing him on as a freshman, transferring back out and into the program and to now?
Yeah, he's come a long way. First time we met him and had him on OV, and he's competitive. Comes from a competitive family. He's got 2 great parents and a great group of brothers and sisters that are all athletes. And he grew up a competitor down in South Georgia, and he's kind of been overcoming the odds. I feel like his whole career. He's played with a chip on his shoulder, and when he was here early on, we knew he was a good player. I mean, you got to realize he was in a room with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields, and he went in there and competed, took notes. I remember sitting in all the meetings and said, this guy's done a really good job. His journey has been different than probably any other. I mean, people leave a school and go to junior college and play in Mississippi and then come back to the same school. You just don't see that very often at the quarterback position. But I still remember the day that we tried to get him back and sign him. And it was a decision for us, whether to offer him or not. And I'm certainly glad we did, and I'm glad he accepted it.
All right, next question to Palmer Thoms, and then we'll go to Jed May.
Kirby, in terms of trying to compare this Tennessee offense to others that you've faced before, is it most comparable to maybe a Gus Malzahn offense in terms of tempo? And I guess, how do you go about preparing your scout team to run that throughout the week?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's Gus Malzahn, very different. It's most like Missouri when Heupel was there. If you remember, we played Missouri, Heupel there. We had some games against them while he was there, and we've gone back and studied those tapes and looked through those tapes. And he's evolved, and he's different in some ways, and added more wrinkles as wrinkles have come to his offense, and does a really good job of being aggressive, of keeping the pressure on. In terms of how we get the scout team to run it, we're very fortunate that we have an abundance of scouts. This week, we've had a tremendous look between being a little healthier at wideout. Jackson's gone over there, Dom's gone over there, George is taking some reps. All of a sudden, that lineup at wideout has looked a little better from a standpoint of competitive reps, where before we didn't have many guys that could give us a look at receiver because we were so down. But we've had the scout team preparing for this for weeks. We've done a lot of work to get them ready for this. And very similar to when you do a triple option, you better have a plan because it's so different and outside the norm.
Yeah, Kirby, I'm just kind of on that same point of special teams blocks that you mentioned earlier. I want to ask you about Dan Jackson, because I think after the game the other day, you said, he checked to the play. They got the punt block the other day. Just what goes into that, as far as guys making those checks on the field? Is it like a quarterback checking at the line of scrimmage? Is it a little different? Just what goes into that process for a guy like Dan Jackson?
Well, I don't need to share all that information because we have opponents to get that. I know y'all don't think they ever look at this, but sometimes they do. But we have to make decisions during game planning, what we're willing to do and what we're willing to check versus looks. And that's one that we sat around on Monday morning, and it was a look they had done several years ago, and we said, if we get it, we want to make a check. You don't get to rep everything they do. They got too much to rep. So it just so happened we'd walked through it on Saturday morning and reviewed it, and Dan made the instant check that we had coached him to make. And like I said, the special team staff did a tremendous job putting that game plan together, and then Dan executed it. But it was something that we had told Dan to do on that look.
All right, we got time for maybe 2 more questions. Let's go to Connor Riley, and then we'll finish up with David Pascal.
Hey, Kirby, I wanted to ask you about Dominic Blaylock. Obviously, we'll see if he ends up playing this week, but given it's been, I think, 23 months since he played his last game, he's had obviously another knee injury and then the hamstring injury on top of that. How has he handled sort of the mental process of trying to get back on the field and get back up to what he was pre that first injury?
Yeah, he's probably not going to play this week. I'm not saying that, guys. He's not working he's working against us. So that's a different deal. But he is much closer, and he's looked good taking some reps against us as he kind of works his way back. I think his mental disposition has been great. I can't say that it hasn't been hard on him from a standpoint of confidence without the brace, frustration from the hamstring re-injury, but I can't. I mean, the kid is a warrior. I mean, he goes out, competes, he listens in meetings. He's a leader, and he's done a great job.
Kirby, I know Tennessee has hit a lot of pass plays with its perimeter blocking to free some of those receivers up. But on the balls that they hit down the field, how are those receivers, can you tell, coming so open? Are they scripting things where they set you up and all of a sudden punch one, or do they just take a random shot? Because they've had receivers obviously running free a lot this year.
They're fast, and you don't always get lined up properly. I mean, it's very unique, guys. It's like you'd ask the question, how come you can't stop the triple option? Well, it's different. You don't face it every day. I mean, they got guys wide open because people have eye violations. I mean, they look at the wrong thing. Sometimes they don't even see the wide receiver. And I know that's hard to believe, but their splits are clear out on the sideline. Half of college football is playing condensed formations now, and everybody's in a teacup where everybody's right next to the ball. And now all of a sudden these guys got two guys outside the numbers. And I mean, I've seen guys on tape not lined up, trying to get a call. I mean, it happens to everybody. So it's not like it's not on tape. And it worries you that it can happen to you. You want to make them earn what they get. And there's a lot of plays that they've gotten on people off the bus. And you're trying to avoid that. And they've done a tremendous job through tempo of being explosive.
And a real quick follow, do they stretch the field about as wide as, because Coach Stoops was talking before they played Tennessee, just how wide they line up and they punch a lot of runs out of that because you're so spread out.
Yeah, no, make no mistake about it. They're a tremendous run game team. They run the ball, I mean, crazy number of average runs per game. They wear you down, they wear you down, they wear you down. They got good backs, they're physical O-line, they're heavy. I mean, it's not an air raid team, guys. It's a shot team and a pound you team. And they spread you out. They make you declare defenders. And they want you to declare, is he in or is he out? And at the end of the day, they make it hard to defend. But it's tough. You just got to have a good plan, and you got to execute the plan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach Mark.